After 20 years as a hairstylist and now a trichologist, I'll say this: it's usually not the product, it's the routine. Overuse, buildup, and outdated cleansing habits cause more problems than hair products. This was a comment that someone made when they disagreed with me saying that grease is a bad thing for the scalp. Today, I'm gonna prove it to you.
I am back! What it do, baby?
You can see their comments up on the screen. Take your time and read them because I'm not doing it now. In this video, I'm going to address their comment. Why am I addressing this comment? Well, this is a 66-year-old woman who identifies as a cosmetologist or a hairstylist with 20 years of experience, now a trichologist. She has a bachelor's in something else. And in this video, I'm going to explain to you, or you're gonna see directly with your own eyes, why black women are so confused when it comes to hair care, because there were people in the generation before us that have this whole grease and oil thing that they're holding on to for dear life and they won't let go. Today I'm going to explain to you why this person and their theory is 1000% wrong and why you have to stop believing it if you want to increase sebum production. Sebum is not something you boost with a practice. Grease does not feed bacteria or mites. It's inherent. What is the real science? Hormones regulate sebum. You guys can see it for yourself. So now that you've heard those claims, let me break down to you the things that you've been missing in your education, and let's fill some of the holes and spaces that most of our mothers and grandmothers have been missing. There's a very big group of black women who believe the same thing that I believe, and those are the women that I learned from. So let's hop into it. So you cannot train your hair or your scalp in a week. Your sebum production is set by your biology and your patterns and routines. Playbook, no fluff, no gaps. So if you're a person like this, you'll have the full breakdown on how sebum production is controlled by your diet. And I'm gonna break down to you how all of these women who are a part of the 7-day challenge and the Growth Cycle Blueprint, the Growth Cycle Blueprint has the 7-day challenge within it, by the way. But in this video, I'm going to break down to you why all of these women are able to increase their sebum production even once they stop oiling the scalp. And the sebum that comes out of your scalp is more than sufficient. So let's break it down. So sebum is your body's natural oil from the sebaceous glands within your body, and they're located everywhere except for the palms of your feet, your elbows, and your knees. It's made of squalene, wax esters, triglycerides, cholesterol, and fatty acids. Its job is to waterproof the skin and the hair, reduce breakage, buffer the microbes and the overgrowth of yeast and bacteria that live on the scalp, because your sebum has antimicrobial and antibacterial properties. It's a fact. Lastly, it limits water loss. Your sebum does what all of your favorite products and what you think oil is doing to your hair, but I digress. Let's keep going. Now, sebum and other external oils do not produce hair growth. Hair growth happens inside of the hair follicle via blood flow and cell division. But sebum keeps the scalp and the hair shaft healthy so that the hair growth cycle isn't thrown off, that the environment of the microbes on your scalp is not thrown off balance, and to make it very easy for you to retain length. That is the purpose of sebum. Now, who's the boss and who regulates sebum production? Because in this comment that you saw here, or this whole little discussion that me and this person were having, and again, the only reason that I had the discussion is because this is what the majority of black women believe, and for that reason you guys are stuck in this everlasting loop. So let's hop into the hormone perspective first. Baseline sebum production is hormone driven. This is your body's factory setting, for lack of a better way to describe it. Androgens like testosterone that converts into DHT. Androgens turn your sebum production all the way up. Puberty spikes, and it can also flare up if you are somebody who suffers from PCOS or androgen excess. Estrogens is a whole nother thing. Estrogen turns the sebum production down. Sebum/oil production normally drops midlife, post-menopause, or during certain birth control. Sometimes birth control can really throw off your sebum production. Next up is cortisol, the stress hormone. Crosstalk with androgens, it ends up reeking and hiking up that sebum production. The more hormones you have, the more hormonal you are, or the more cortisol is being shot into your body, the more your sebum is going to spike. It nudges all up. Next up is insulin, right? So sometimes your insulin can be really high from frequent refined carbs being ingested into the body, depending on what your diet is like. Too much of this or high levels of this, it supports sebum production. Sebum activity is heightened, so you get more sebum, more oil production. Remember that day-to-day greasiness is not necessarily an overproduction of sebum. Usually accumulated sebum along with sweat, product buildup, the greases and butters you add into your hair, humidity, oxidation, and just the overall appearance. Most of the time it has absolutely nothing to do with new sebum production. Let's talk about your oils, your greases, and your essential oils. Different products that consist of petroleum, heavy oils, butters, greases, pomade, these all coat the scalp, creating a barrier. They don't down regulate or create an uptick in glands per se just from putting it on there. But I also want you to remember that some of the same oils that you use on your scalp are the same oils that professionals use to block the pores so that different chemicals aren't absorbed into the stratum corneum, which is that top layer of skin. But I digress. They actually, instead of all of the wonderful things that you think grease is actually doing, it's actually trapping yeast, dirt, bacteria, the Demodex mites that come up on your scalp to sleep. They all just swim around within it. It doesn't create a barrier. It doesn't create any favorable environment for your scalp. It just creates literally like a layer of slime. That layer of slime, over the years, it gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. Again, this type of hair and scalp and follicle weathering can take anywhere between 6 months to 25 years. I digress. Let's keep going. Essential oils like tea tree, peppermint, rosemary, lemongrass, they're amazing. As a herbalist, I love them, but do they go on the scalp? Let's get into it. When it comes to essential oils, I already have a full video about it, but essential oils need a carrier. Essential oils would be used holistically to tackle certain types of bacterial infections. You use it as a carrier oil to carry it to the follicle so it can kill that thing, and then you rinse off, you shampoo off the remainder of it. I need you to understand that even if the essential oil gets to the bloodstream, it is not enough for it to not be metabolized by your body. Your body metabolizes the essential oils and all of its key constituents way before it gets to the bloodstream. So when you are putting essential oils and things of that nature on the scalp, it is a spot treatment for a second. It is not something that should be done on a regular basis. It should be to treat a specific infection, and after that's over, we should be moving on. The overuse of essential oils, and remember, overuse is you using it if there's no bacterial infection. That's overuse. You're using it for no reason. This can do way more harm than good. Essential oils can also be the trigger that increases inflammation that leads to something like seborrheic dermatitis or dandruff. This isn't going to turn off oil production or take it up, but the inflammation will cause your body to go into the stress phase. And if you are stressing the follicle by putting something that's too strong on it, if you put something on too strong that your hand or your skin is allergic to and it breaks out, that's stress that you're inducing in your skin. It's the same thing on your scalp. When you put essential oils on the scalp, it causes an irritation in the scalp that triggers the inflammation. Okay, so we good? Let's keep going. This is gonna be a long one. Bottom line, Oils and greases and butters are only useful for length retention. Mind you, the only time they're good for length retention is if you're trying to control some type of barrier, like let's say just like my Simply Shea Bag. That is for women who are about to get braids or any type of protective style, right? You are using that formulation on the mid shaft to ends to make sure that you create a barrier to protect your hair from the thread, from the wefts and all of the things. But just to get up and just randomly grease or oil your scalp, it literally makes no sense because your body already has that. But we already talked about that. Let's keep going. So for the skeptics, let's be very clear before we move on to the next point. I have never stated that brushing your hair or certain things are automatically going to increase sebum production. Most of you that disagree with me are people who just don't know. Originally, I had the 7-day challenge on the YouTube and it was free 99. It was for anybody to see, and those people already know that follow my method. They are able to increase sebum production or control it within a couple of weeks. It is a fact. And the people that are in it now, when they follow directions, they can increase it as well. Just because you don't know the techniques or you've never seen something done doesn't mean that it can't be done. That's the beautiful part about science. So in a practical, more narrow sense, yeah, brushing daily, brushing less, shampooing less, or adding grease to the hair, absolutely none of those practices are going to reprogram the hair follicle or the body and the body's hormone releases to be able to regulate your sebum production. Absolutely not. Those aren't the practices that I'm talking about. Targeted changes can shift all different levels of sebum production. It's a fact. I've done it. So let's talk about practices that regulate, decrease, or increase your sebum production. Regulate to find balance. Number 1. Now, I won't give the exact details because that's what my challenges are for. That's why the majority of women think like this woman thought too until they signed up for my courses. This isn't to get you to sign up for my courses because trust and believe, I don't want anyone within any of my courses that are like, oh, show improve me. This is scientific fact. The first goal is to find your place, right? Find that perfect medium for your scalp's profile, where your sebum production isn't too high or too low. It's just right for you, the climate that you live in, and all of the things. You need to make sure that all of your practices and patterns regulate a comfortable, clear, and clean scalp 24/7. There are so many different things that go into that 7-day challenge and blueprint members. You guys make sure you check the groups because I'm going to list all of the things that y'all already know, but just down, like listed in, typed out so you can see it for yourself what you're doing. Number 1 is smart scalp hygiene. There is a certain process that my gurus follow to make sure that they have optimum scalp hygiene. Now, that is one of the first steps because remember, the argument here was that practices, different changes, and all of the things, they don't help to increase sebum production. You can't regulate it like this. Number 2 is going to be a balanced diet. There are so many different things within our bodies that are triggered based on the foods that we eat. And from what I've told you, based on your sebum production, the foods that you put into your body directly affect the type of hormones that are flooded within your body that affect your sebum production. So to say that a diet and things of that nature have nothing to do with sebum production is actually crazy. Your diet is literally one of the main leading causes for the decrease or the increase of your sebum production. Number 3 is going to be the stress hormone, right? Your levels of stress. I've already told you guys, we already talked about what role stress plays in your hormones and what that cortisol level does to your sebum production. So by you having certain practices that handle your stress levels, you can there and then have control over your sebum production. Again, next up. Now, for some people whose issues have gone a lot further than hormonal issues, and there's a deep-rooted bacterial infection that the normal things won't treat, then there are some medications that are taken. These medications are to kill the overgrowth of yeast and bacteria, normalizing your scalp's natural microflora, so these different hormonal triggers will never take place. Number 5 is going to be healthy scalp stimulation. There are different routines and practices that you can follow to have healthy scalp stimulation, and this is one of the things that go together to create this full holistic practice to increase, decrease, or regulate your sebum production. Next up is different lifestyle leverages, like do you smoke tobacco excessively? Are you a heavy drinker? Do you get enough sleep? There are so many different things within your lifestyle that are going to directly reflect your hormones and your sebum production and all of the things. And by making these slight changes, right, and by doing different things and having different patterns and routines, you change these triggers, which then cuts off the things that cause the inflammation that lead to all of the scalp and follicle disorders in the first place. Adding heavy grease and oils to the scalp does not, or the hair shaft, does not regulate sebum production. I need you to also understand that when you add oil or grease to the hair shaft, you're creating a barrier. So if there is a barrier on top of the hair shaft, once the sebum reaches your ends, simply by you combing your hair on a regular basis, the sebum's never going to touch your ends, which is why most naturals, after they follow these types of things, they come and see somebody like me and they think their ends look good, but really they look like this. That is because you guys believe that oils and greases and butters are the thing that's keeping your ends strong, where in reality is cutting off the hydration. It's stopping your hair from getting all of the benefits that sebum actually holds, right? So when you think about it and you know all of the things that sebum does for the hair shaft, right? All of those things sound like what you're lacking and what you're going after oils and butters for. But regardless of how you feel or how long you've been doing hair, how many degrees you have, that means absolutely nothing to me. You know why? There are thousands of women who have increased their sebum production or decreased their sebum production, completely eliminating their seborrheic dermatitis, their dandruff, their folliculitis, all by changing the practices that you all swear by. So when you see me on YouTube and to you I'm a little rah-rah or whatever the case may be, it's because these conversations are exhausting. And one thing that I wanted to say to people, when you comment on my channel, don't just like make a statement and say like, oh, you're spreading misinformation, because I'm going to respond as a scientist and say, okay, well, if I'm spreading misinformation, what about greasing the scalp is beneficial, right? And your response is, oh, it creates a barrier, is nutrient. Well, it doesn't do that better than sebum, and the oil and the grease that you're putting on the scalp is going to prevent the sebum from doing its job. So again, I need all of my oilers, all of my butterers, and all of my greasers to explain to me how you greasing the scalp in any way, shape, or form is going to help your scalp have a healthier environment. If the body was created by our creator to reach its maximum potential when it is covered in sebum, explain to me how blocking the pores with oils, butter, or greases, or putting an extra layer on top of the stratum corneum, please explain to me how that helps. Sebum regulation is mostly inside out. Your hormones, your diet, your stress level, micronutrients, some topical support depending on the state of your scalp, like zinc, medicated shampoos like the ones that I've suggested or that are still within my Amazon store. I don't care what any of you say, adding oils and butters and greases to the scalp don't do anything to maximize they don't do anything to help the scalp with its natural environment. It just creates an extra layer of things to attract different oils, butters, and greases. Because I want you to do me a favor. Do this. Cover your hands in oil, right? Your hands, all like your hands. And then I live in Las Vegas, Nevada. We call it the sand ball, the dust ball, right? So go outside one day on a real windy day covered in oil, and you tell me how clean your skin looks. You covered in oil in Las Vegas, Nevada, every piece of dirt, everything that flies around is gonna stick right to your arms. Why do you think that the same thing isn't happening on the scalp? That is why the majority of Team Natural people are straying away from it. They're cutting their hair off and all of the things because they're experiencing the same bald spot in the middle of their scalp. Everybody's experiencing the same balding from following the practices that most of you all are still trying to argue with me about in the comments. So I really want everybody to get to this place where we can think critically without trying to argue and go back and forth. Because to make a statement saying that overproduction or the deregulation in some shape or form of your sebum production is absolutely insane. And any professional cosmetologist that is championing the addition to oils, butters, and greases on the scalp for any reason, to me, is one that doesn't have the proper education as it pertains to that. Because at the end of the day, unless you go to a cosmetology school that isn't ran properly, for example, there are a couple of cosmetology schools that for the most part, if they have a black woman that comes in there and she's the only black instructor, the other white instructors are not going to argue with her when she says oils, butters, and greases and things of that nature are for the scalp. They're not going to say that because don't nobody want to go back and forth with black women about their cultural practices and stuff. So they say okay, and they let them teach the twist outs and all of the things in cosmetology school. But you know where those questions are not. There is nothing about greasing, oiling, or buttering the scalp on Steak Board. You want to know where it's at? The only place that grease and butter, at least unless they've changed it, the only place where grease and butter and oil is on your State Board exam is when they talk about protecting the skin from chemicals. You use a petroleum-based skin protector before you use chemicals. That's the only time that we're greasing or buttering anything professionally, cosmetology-wise. Everything else is added on by certain instructors or certain teachers, but that's not something that's on State Board. These are all things that are added to. When you talk to most professional cosmetologists, they say things like this, like they're making ebooks for their clients, trying to express to their clients oils and butters. You're not supposed to have that in your hair. It doesn't create a barrier like you think it does. It's not doing the things that you actually think that it's doing. So contrary to popular opinion, your patterns and your routines can increase or decrease your sebum production. And if you learn your body's your scalp and your hair shaft's profile, you can decrease or increase your sebum production at will. It is a definite fact. And the majority of women who are in my 7-day challenge who follow directions are in complete and utter shock when they follow directions and see the increase in their sebum production. And guess what? None of them, once they see the sebum production, once they see and feel the change in their hair, they never go back to these patterns that most black women refuse to let go of. So the thing is, like I said in my last video, as all of y'all favorite YouTubers end up like turning their back on Team Natural and running back to cosmetologists, all of the cosmetologists that jumped off the bandwagon is like, I'm a Team Natural, da 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 da. Y'all are all about to split the block and start doing relaxers again. Watch. Everything that I said was going to happen is going to happen. Watch. All of y'all favorite Team Natural people that's been telling y'all not to flat iron hair, they're all going to cosmetology school. Are they still doing curly cuts in cosmetology school? Yeah, but you know what else they doing? They doing silk presses too. They using blow dryers on all of their clients too, because Team Natural is no longer holding its sting. So again, if you disagree with something that I say, that is okay. Like, I love that about science. It's not a problem. But when you make a statement, when you say things like this, and as a 66-year-old woman, I would expect you to know this, right? As a scientist, if you disagree with one of my theories, instead of saying, oh, I'm sorry, I had to say something, this is misinformation, instead of you saying that, the proper thing to say as a fellow scientist would have been something like, hey, Sin, I watch a lot of your videos, I've seen some of your theories, I kind of disagree. My theory is woo to woo woo woo. What do you think about that? That is how you talk to another scientist. That is how you introduce another idea. And then I would have came back with the video that I just made, and then we could have either met somewhere in the middle, or you would have said, oh, hey, okay. But no, you didn't do that. Instead, you said, oh, well, this is misinformation. Instead, you called me a liar, right? And then when you are addressed in that way, it's like, oh no, I didn't call you a liar, I never called you a liar. Well, if somebody is spreading misinformation knowingly, and I'm knowingly telling somebody, okay, this is what this is, and I know it's not true, that means that I'm telling a lie. To say something and verify it as true when it's not, knowingly, it's telling a lie. So by definition, I am a liar if I'm spreading misinformation, and I am not. Because if I'm lying, saying that you changing your patterns and your routines can regulate your sebum production, if I'm lying, then all of the people who have popped up on the screen are lying too. And I hope that this video didn't go over some of your heads. I want us to get to a point where we can have conversations. Your age, your amount of education means absolutely nothing. It doesn't. We need to be able to have conversations. You can't just attack somebody and then it's just what you said, and then that person just got to be like, okay, like, no. I'm a scientist. You disagree? How? Explain. If you can't explain, keep your comment to yourself, or go start your own channel and go express that there. It's very simple. But all the gloves are off, and I've been doing this for so freaking long. I'm not gonna keep having the same conversations with the same women. Black women are the only group of women that believe oils, butters, and greases need to go on the hair. Black women are the only group of women that believe essential oils should be added to the scalp for any other reason but to treat an infection. Okay? And when the mind frame shifts and when the mind frame changes, women see a head of hair that they've never seen before in their life. And I'm talking, but as I'm talking, there are multiple comments that are popping up on the screen that are verifying the things that are coming out of my mouth. So if I'm lying and I'm making it up, all of these women are too, and all of the people in the comments are as well. As a people, we need to learn how to have conversations with people without attacking. We need to attack if you want to attack something, attack the theory and not the person. Nobody's spreading misinformation. That statement is so annoying to me. Like, I'm a human being. Some people have a trigger. I think that is a trigger for me. Yeah, misinformation. Okay, if it's misinformation, tell me what information I'm missing. Tell me where I'm wrong. Please. And as you can see, this person was never able to tell me, well, no, they did. They said the benefit that the benefit that oil has for the scalp is this. This is a dumb statement. It's dumb. Huh? And I don't care how y'all feel about it. I've been saying this for 10 years. And nobody wants to listen. Oh, she's a liar. Oh, she's spreading misinformation. And now all of the people who taught y'all that, they're slowly coming out the woodwork, and it's only going to get better. So I implore you, all you naturalistas, if y'all don't start changing y'all perspective and going back to the science, you guys are gonna start losing your clients to the professional cosmetologist the same way that the professional cosmetologist lost the majority of their clients to you. So the end of the month, I don't want to say the end of the month, my next course is going to be for professional cosmetologists only, or professionals in general, because there is a shift coming, whether you believe it or not. I would think, like, if I was y'all at this point, I would just look at the stuff that I'm saying, and I would just try to make little subtle changes just for a minute, because thus far I want y'all to point out and type in the comments what thing that I point out over all of these years that hasn't manifested itself. I'll wait. I love y'all guys. I love y'all guys. I love y'all so much. Please stop leaving comments like this on my channel. And if you do, I need you to explain it to me. I need you to express to me how the things that I'm saying are not factual. And I need it to be long and drawn out. Don't just throw no bullshit out there, because you're gonna have to eat those words. I'm the type of woman that if you are going to call me a liar, that's like a really big deal for me. That's a slap in the face, and I'm gonna defend myself. So